I'm Dennis Anderson along with Julie Zenner. Here's what's coming up on Almanac North.
Prospects for a special session of the Minnesota Legislature fizzled this week. Northland lawmakers want to extend unemployment benefits for laid-off iron miners.
Well, a familiar face is back as the interim CEO of the Lake Superior Zoo after the surprise resignation of the zoo's leader this week.
And we'll have the week's business headlines and bring you a news file story from 25 years ago.
It's all coming up next on Almanac North. Hello and welcome to Almanac North. Thank you very much for watching. This week's show was recorded on Wednesday afternoon. And now here's Julie with our first guest.
All right. Thank you, Denny, and welcome everyone. Negotiations to organize a special session of the Minnesota Legislature to extend benefits for laid-off iron miners have been going on since last fall. But those efforts appear officially dead this week, with the Senate's Republican leader saying he would not be willing to sign a pre-session letter of agreement. Governor Dayton told lawmakers he would not call a special session without such an agreement. So for now, a special session seems unlikely, and that means out-of-work mining employees will have to wait until March to find out about an extension of benefits. Well, joining us with more on the topic is Democrat Representative Rob Ecklund from International Falls. And thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me on.
The lead up to your first session is pretty interesting so far, it seems like.
It's pretty exciting. It seems like every time I go down there, something happens.
Is there still time for a special session, do you think, or are we reaching the point where it really just makes sense to wait for the regular session to begin?
My gut would say that we might be reaching the point where we have to wait for the regular session. It seems like there's some posturing going on both sides that's maybe not going to allow it to happen. I'm still holding out hope, though.
Rob, talk to us a little bit about the reaction on the Iron Range and throughout northeastern Minnesota, where we do find steelworkers living.
The reaction was disappointment yesterday. When we found out where the speaker's position came out on this, and Representative Metza, myself, Representative Anzels, and Representative Moline put out a press release expressing our disappointment and sharing that I'm a steel worker, and my brothers and sisters are out of work and not knowing what's going to go on with their unemployment benefits. So I would think across the range it was major disappointment that this happened.
Do you think this will be an immediate issue as soon as the legislature convenes now in early March?
I believe it will. Representative Dowd was gracious enough yesterday to have a meeting yesterday afternoon with Representative Metza and I, and we talked over several issues. And we're going to take the results of that meeting back to our caucus on February 6th. The House caucus is meeting. And so if things work out right, I think we'll see some bills that will be dealt with the first week of the session.
Mm-hmm. The House Speaker has indicated that it seemed like that extension, the 26-week extension, something on that would be coming that first week. So you trust him?
I believe something will. Of course, there's negotiations and agreements that have to happen on these things all the time, but I think something will happen. And for the benefit of our laid-off miners, I'm certainly hopeful that it will.
Mm-hmm. So much of the surrounding economy depends on mining also. Do you believe that the legislature is going to take up maybe extending those benefits even for people who are not specifically miners, but others who are impacted by the slowdown?
We did get numbers from DEED and from the IRRB that have that showing that effect on vendors and others, mm-hmm. And I can't say whether they're going to be included in that, but I certainly hope that we can figure out a way to do that because they're all impacted also.
How long of a period of time would the benefit extension last?
We're looking at 26 weeks.
26 weeks.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. It seems like they're still, even after 30 some years of trying, there just seems to be such a need for diversification on the range still. What do you think needs to be happening?
Well, I think the IRRB heard that, and they're doing some outreach meetings. There was a meeting on February 1st with business leaders in Chisholm. Had about 120 people in attendance, and they did some brainstorming from all the business and mining, not just mining, but all the business leaders across the North Iron Range. And they're taking that back on February 29th. They're going to have the same type of a brainstorming meeting with the public sector folks, MnSCU, the school districts, county commissioners, state representatives, and senators. And then what IRRB is going to do with Apex and ARDC and Northspan and other groups like that are working on the same issues, they're going to take their stats and go through these things, and then hopefully the first part of June have a rollout with what we think needs to happen to diversify the economy.
When it comes to new mining up in northeastern Minnesota, do you actually see the day coming soon when the environmental issues will be taken care of?
I believe they will be. I believe once we get through the permitting process and everything it goes through the proper channels and shows that the mining can be done safely, that we can move forward.
It's been what, about 10 years?
Polymet's been going on for 10 years.
10 years.
It's a long.
How much longer do you expect?
You know, I don't know on that. I know the public comment period is either closed or nearing its close, and then all that stuff will have to be developed out and hashed out, and hopefully
Maybe another 4 or 5 years?
Well, I hope not.
Okay.
I really
All
hope
right,
not.
sure.
I hope it happens sooner than that, because I believe that can be a part of our economy in the range in northern Minnesota, but I don't think it's going to be the whole driver of our economy, but I think it can be a facet
part
of
of
it. Yes.
Dangerous to pin all of your hopes on another mining operation when
Yeah,
you've seen
I
how cyclical things can be over the years.
Absolutely. I think we need to really work to bring other things into. I mentioned when I was on here a couple weeks ago that I think technology, broadband, fiber are the kind of things that can help diversify our economy up here too. So.
No, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if there's anything else that you see that the legislature potentially could be doing this session that would benefit the region beyond just extending those unemployment benefits.
Well, the governor's issued a pretty aggressive bonding proposal, and there's a lot of projects in northern Minnesota that are affected by that, from the Sedan mine, some trail extensions, the Gitchigami Trail on the North Shore, some of the trails by the Visitor Center in Vermilion. And then the city of Ely has got some proposals for helping the college with some safety improvements on the city that they didn't make the governor's bill, but they're in there. And what will happen is that the Vermilion Community College is in the bill for some housing improvements for the students. And if the city of Ely can get in to have some curb and gutter installed, then MnDOT will do the proper lineage so it can help with safety of the students for when they're moving into the business section of the community.
Rob, you're from International Falls. Does I-Falls have a request in for bonding money?
Yeah, the city of the airport in International Falls made the governor's cut, and that's one of only 4 airports in the state that have international designation. So then that's a pretty good reason why the governor had it in there. And international designation is real critical, especially living on the border, because we have customs and immigration there that can come and service international flights. So.
A lot of kind of nuts and bolts maintenance items in the jobs bill this time around. Do you think that's the right approach?
Well, I think so. I think some of our laid-off miners could potentially go to work on some of these projects, and the old saying, whether it's a hospitality industry or whatever, if you have a project going on in your community, it's heads and beds. Your hotel and your hospitality industries, your grocery stores, your bars, and everything else are seeing an influx of people using the establishments. So
the city of Virginia, Rob, needs another $3 million to extend sewer and water pipes to a certain section of the city in the EVTAC mining expansion, which is going to include the new bridge.
Right.
Is that look like a possibility?
I talked to Representative Metza shortly before we went on, and he's working with MnDOT on that right now. You know, a $3.4 million in the scheme of how big that project is certainly something that can be fixed and worked on. So we're hopeful that it can be taken.
The city of Virginia has now hired a lobbyist, first time in the history of that city. Is that the project that the lobbyist will be working on?
I haven't had direct contact with him, but I would assume that's probably part of that lobbyist official duties will be for the city of Virginia.
Back to the jobs bill a little bit. Are there items that you would like to have seen on the governor's jobs, Bill, that you think maybe could still be pushed forward?
There's a couple. There's the Island View Sewer Project in Couchiching County. That's to bring municipal sewer out to the lake region east of International Falls. Our businesses really need that to help them grow and be profitable. And then there's another project that's a little near and dear to my heart, and that's around Ely too. It's called the Prospector Loop, and that's a potential ATV trail. And I think ATVs could be the next part of the hospitality industry in northern Minnesota. Could be part of the shoulder season, as they say, when the fishing's done and the skiing hasn't started or snowmobiling hasn't started, where ATV use could really be, I think, a boom to our economy. So.
There's a budget surplus this year. That's a great position to be in for a first-time lawmaker.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's good.
Where do you see the opportunities with that?
Well, I think the opportunities could certainly revolve somewhere around our transportation issue that we have in the state. Maybe be able to leverage some of that money with some federal money. And the other thing is we're required by state law to put a portion of that aside for the rainy day fund, and I think that was the legislature had great foresight in doing that. So because our economy does move in its cycles, and so it'll be nice to have that rainy day fund down in the future for when we.
You're new to the legislature, Rob. As you start to meet the new men and women who are serving in the legislature, does it look like this year that perhaps lawmakers will get along a little better maybe than in the past?
Well, I think a good example is Representative Metz and myself meeting with the speaker yesterday. I think we can work together. I'm hopeful of that, and of course I know there's going to be posturing going on. There always is, but I'm certainly hopeful that we can make that happen. And I think my record on the county board showed that you can do that kind of thing.
Representative Carly Moline has decided not to seek re-election. Big loss?
Oh, absolutely. I've relied on Carly a lot for advice and information, and it is a big loss. But I can understand her position too. So,
all of the legislative seats are going to be on the ballot this fall.
Yes,
I understand.
Yep.
So your predictions of posturing might be coming true.
It might be a little bit of that, and yeah, with both the Senate and the House up this year, it's going to be an interesting legislative session, and it's going to be short, 10 weeks.
10 weeks.
So it's not going to be real long.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming in and
Well,
visiting
thanks
with
for
us.
having
Good to have you back.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Now, let's dig into our news file archive for a look at what was making news 25 years ago this week.
Northlanders have a variety of attitudes concerning war in the Persian Gulf. But for 5 minutes this afternoon, differences were put aside in a show of support for our troops serving half a world away.
I'm going to pray for everybody and just make sure that they fling an American flag. I personally know I'm supporting our troops and hoping the best comes out of this, and no blood has to be shed.
The spanning of the Bong Bridge was symbolic in more than one way.
That just like Duluth and Spear are separate cities, we can come together in unity. And the same thing with the nation, wherever we stand on different issues, we know that we're together in our hearts.
The We Care event hopes to send a strong message to troops and their families here at home that America stands behind them.
We're here just to say that we can put aside our political differences and all agree on the fact that we want this war over quick and we want our troops home safe.
The bitter cold may have kept the crowd smaller than the 1,758 people expected, but residents who took part say it was well worth it.
To show our support like this, I think, is wonderful. It's something that I'm proud to be part of.
Well, the future of the Lake Superior Zoo in Duluth has been in upheaval since June of 2012 when a major flood damaged some of the zoo's most popular exhibits. The city's Parks Department is in the midst of a revisioning process for the zoo, plans that are getting plenty of public attention. Now, the latest sign of uncertainty came this week when the zoo's CEO abruptly resigned. The zoo board named Julene Bull as the interim CEO, and she joins us now to talk about the zoo's future. Julene, thank you. You're no stranger to the zoo. You served once before as the interim director. Did you expect to be put in this position again?
I did not see it coming at all. It was out of the blue. However, I did just rejoin the zoo board last month, and one of the reasons that I wanted to get back on was because I saw a little brighter future for this whole process that's been going through. It seems like the city and society have come to a better resolution that's going to be great for the future of the zoo. So I thought, I want to get back on and have be able to have an impact on future planning. And so when the board chair called me on Friday, wanted to meet with me, and she told me that Don was resigning and wanted to know if I would fill in as interim, or if I would consider it. And I go, I would consider that. It wasn't a difficult decision because I was already coming back to be part of the zoo board again. And I thought, I've been there, and I've done this 2 times prior as a city employee at the time when the city managed the zoo. And so I spent the weekend kind of thinking about what I thought the challenges were going to be that I would need to get on the ground running. And then, so what I brought to the executive committee on Monday is I brought this plan that here's what I think we should be looking at, the challenges, and this is what I think that what needs to be in place to address them. So
being the zoo so well and the plans that are coming up for the zoo, and I don't like what if questions necessarily, but what if the board asked you to take that position? Would you do it?
Well, that was actually brought up at the meeting, and I said, I'd rather right now focus on the short term so that I'm not, distracted in any way of, I think we need to be looking long term too, and that's one thing I'm going to be asking the board. We're doing this, but we also be needing to look down the road. And so I don't know, and I don't know if I'd even be the right person, but I want us to get us to this point and then come to that question some other time.
What are some of the ideas that you brought to the executive session after thinking about the challenges and opportunities?
The challenges, we need staffing. There's the society staff. There's some vacancies, so there's some opportunities there to fill in. For me to look at these needs and to bring some people in that might be able to be a good fit for meeting those needs. Funding, especially community support. The zoo has never really gone out and asked the community for individuals. Well, they have, but not in a concerted, planned fund development plan. We just haven't got to that point.
Julene, how important is the zoo for the city of Duluth and the surrounding area?
Well, it's been there for over 90 years. It's been an important part of the city. And now, especially with the focus on the river corridor, I always felt that this could be really a shining star in that river corridor. So combined with Spirit Mountain and the St. Louis River, the zoo is really an important part of that. And I was really hoping that, or anticipating that there'd be a bright spotlight on the zoo because of its history and whatnot, and was really disturbed when there was thought of maybe just making it so much smaller. But I'm happy that that what they have planned out there is an accredited value zoo that could have future opportunities even in the future.
And even though the space for the zoo itself is expected to be smaller, 10 acres?
Correct.
A lot can be put into that, I understand, and there are some plans
Absolutely.
that I believe we have some graphics that we
There
can
are
look at, and maybe you could walk us through some of the different ideas that are out
there's 3 concepts, and they all shift the zoo east of the creek, and the Polar Shores, which has been empty since the flood, will be transformed into a grizzly connection. That's going to be in all 3. There's going to be a forest discovery. There's just going to be, there's going to be the same kind of theme with a few changes that, depending on the public input that was asked for, there could be some tweaking. But the zoo had to be moved away from the creek, and the flood is a
Sure.
reason for that. That the zoo was not secure, so moving it away from the creek. I kind of wish that was the reason they had given right from the get-go.
Yeah.
But
You've been asking for public input. What has
right.
the public been telling the zoo over the past few months?
I haven't seen that yet. Well, other than that, I was at that public meeting that was part of Parks and Recreation, and so there was a number of people that got up to say something, and I think they're really emphasizing that we want the zoo, and they think that it's important, and I think that's that's wonderful.
That's what you're hearing.
Yep.
Do you see a time when the polar exhibit is ever going to come back, or is that really a thing of the
The
past?
polar
now?
shores, you mean as far as a polar bear? I think right now the focus is to renovate the existing polar shores for the grizzly bear. And I think it was great when we had Bubba in Berlin. We had a great exhibit for them, and Bubba, of course, was just a wonderful star.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing about zoo animals and the connection with the public is, if the public come to the zoo and they have that connection where they, can interact with an animal, whether seeing the animal active, eating, feeding, or playing with other exhibit animals, those are the things that the zoo visitors take away as a successful experience. And no matter what size the zoo is, I think we can do that.
It's clear you have a passion for the zoo that
I do.
comes out.
Yeah.
What's your vision for the zoo? If you could say, this is what I want, and
Well, the zoo looks totally different now than when I first started there. So that was 40 years ago. Who knows what it's going to look like in 40 years? I see opportunities that maybe even moving it over to, expanding it across Grand or underneath Grand Avenue to the St. Louis River, and providing opportunities to mingle with the wild out there. I mean, I still think there's a lot of great opportunities in the zoo's future.
So it seems like there would be a lot of construction, reconfiguring of exhibits. Do you
Exactly.
expect the facility would stay open during that transformation, or would it have to close for a while?
Well, I expect to. This year is really going to be challenging because the old bear dens where the grizzly is now, and we have one cougar, those animals have to be moved out of there because we're undergoing accreditation, and that facility is no longer meets accreditation standards. So I'm looking at, okay, we have a zoo that has a really growing print of empty exhibits. So I want us to move ahead and look for this year anyway of how can we maybe expand, make up for those lost exhibits.
how important is accreditation, and who does the work?
You mean the work of the accreditation?
Yes.
That's the society staff, and we're going to get a lot of good help from the city. The society, we lost accreditation
You did at
10
one
years
time,
ago.
yes.
And the society at the time then took over the management of the zoo, and they made a goal of reestablishing accreditation. And accreditation from the Association of Zoos and Aquariums is really an important level of quality, which I believe is important to maintain and strive for and maintain. So it's a reflection of the importance of the people running the zoo to the community.
In that process, does that organization actually come here and examine the zoo?
Yes, we're going to have 3 inspectors come in June. There's this lengthy application process that the zoo staff, in fact, I was just in a meeting this morning with the staff, and they're finalizing it, and they have to send it off to the AZA office. And then 3 inspectors will come to the zoo in June and inspect everything. And depending on issues that they give us, we have till August or to address any of those. And then in September, we go to the annual conference and defend
Sure.
our accreditation process.
Okay. Julene Boo, Interim Director of the Lake Superior Zoo. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Time to take a look at some of the week's economic stories from the folks at Business North. In the midst of an iron ore decline that has closed several mines, Iron Range leaders are taking a fresh look at how to pursue economic development. The Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation Board is hosting 3 meetings to solicit input on where investment can best be made to enhance future growth. Comment is being sought from residents, plus key leaders of industry, higher education, and professional developers. Since the year 2000, employment in Iron Range mines has declined by more than 1,200 jobs. Right now, more than 2,000 miners are laid off.
Following recent protests against pipeline projects proposed by Enbridge Energy, participants in the business world are responding with the release of data showing pipelines make a massive economic impact. A study paid for by the Minnesota Energy Agency found the Sandpiper and Line 3 pipeline projects would add more than $2.3 billion in direct spending to Minnesota's economy, mostly from construction expenditures. The study was conducted by the Bureau of Business and Economic Research at the University of Minnesota. Duluth-Leibovitz School, Enbridge provided the majority of data used in that report.
3 superior businesses were recognized Friday at the annual Chamber Business Awards. The Chamber honored Happy Tales Animal Hospital as the new business of the year. Greenlight Fitness was named Outstanding Young Business, and the Center for Muscle and Joint Therapy received the Community Cornerstone Award. The pool of nominees was made up of more than 30 local organizations. An independent panel of judges selected the winners based on nominations made by community members and business leaders. For more on these and other stories, visit businessnorth.com.
Do you have a comment about something you've seen on the show? Tell us about it in a voicemail. Dial 218-788-2849 to leave a message or send an email to Almanac North at WDSC.org. And visit the WDSC website for the latest updates on your favorite programs, news about the station, or to sign up to be a member. Julie Spike the porcupine did not see his shadow at the zoo this week, which means spring is right around the corner.
I trust that more sometimes than the meteorologists.
You do, huh? No. Good old Spike. All right, for Julie and the crew at Almanac North, I'm Dennis Anderson. Have a great weekend. Good night, everybody, and be kind.